Disclaimer: this show is not for the faint of heart or the easily offended. The views expressed here are that of the show hosts only, and not their wives, girlfriends, husbands, boyfriends, polygamous partners, employers, music artists, businesses, or anyone other than the Cognitive Disillusions podcasters. The explicit tag is there for a good reason. Please proceed with caution.
Every one of us will have to decide whether or not we want to keep this great republic or whether we're willing to sacrifice it and surrender it to tyranny.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Cognitive Disillusions podcast, where we address the current issues of today with brash humor, skepticism, or aggression to invoke critical thinking in the masses. We take our tightly held beliefs, everyone's tightly held beliefs, mash them up with current events, politics, and religion, then throw them to the fires of skepticism. We magnify the so-called logic and then blow it all up. There is no green zone of safety for a lack of critical thinking. This is episode number 13. Your hosts today are Joel, John, and I'm Al, and we are your tormentors. For those of you listening later down the road on these podcasts, if we're still around in the forgotten era, you're probably wondering where the fuck episode 12 went. Well, there's a story with that, and we're not sharing it on the air today. Joel, John, how are you guys?
I'm good. How you doing?
Good. Joel?
I'm doing pretty good, I suppose. Busy as always. Yesterday, my cousins, Kristen and Stefan, had their first baby girl, and she's absolutely beautiful. And I just wanted to say congratulations. I love you guys so much. And I'm hoping we can clip out this little section here to send it to you, because I don't have an opportunity to come see you guys really soon. So I love you guys. Congratulations. And I don't know, do you guys want to say congratulations too, maybe?
Yay, congratulations, new baby.
Definitely, congratulations, you guys.
All right,
you are breeders.
Indeed.
So, we have a couple of topics that we were planning on going over today. Which do you guys want to tackle first? Do you want to tackle our rape yellow paint? Or would you like to try to get into this North Carolina bill?
I'm kind of probably going to get fired by either one.
Oh.
So.
That's probably true. I'm actually thinking North Carolina sounds like a good place to start.
Okay, so North Carolina is introducing a bill that effectively bans protections for LGBTQ community. What the state is trying to twist it into being as a anti-discrimination bill. So basically what the state is saying is that cities, counties, and ordinances can't be written or enacted that allow somebody who views themselves as one gender to go into the bathroom of that gender. They have to go into the gender bathroom that they're biologically born in. So if you're born male, you can only use male restrooms, even if you're transgendered, even if you're completely transitioned. You still have to go into the men's bathroom. That's where this actually lends out to. And the state law is, the bill is trying to formulate it so that the state, the city, the business can't be sued for discrimination if they kick you out of those bathrooms. Is essentially what they're trying to do. Block city and state ordinances, because some cities in North Carolina and some counties have already said we're going to enact legislation that allows same-sex or transgender youth to go into the other bathroom as necessary for their development. both in schools and in public agencies, and I think the other one was public accommodations, I think is the wording. And this bill prevents them. So if you go into a restroom and you're transgender and you believe yourself to be female in your biology, your gender identity, and you go into a female's bathroom and you're biologically male, that business or that school says, no, you got to get out. You can't go in here. You can't sue for discrimination. And no cities and counties can enact legislation to protect you. That's what this is. Anybody got an opinion on it?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that before we even get into the practicality, the morality, any of that aspect, the first thing that comes into my mind is the hypocrisy. In my understanding is a lot of these states like North Carolina and the kind of Bible Belt states, what is the one thing that they scream most loudly about is they don't want the federal government coming in and telling them what to do. They, states' rights, yada yada yada, all of that, which I actually kind of tend to agree with. But yet, when they're the big man on at the top of the totem pole, there, they don't want to extend that same principle to the local municipalities and counties and so on. That's just blatantly hypocrisy. Excuse me.
John?
I'm looking at the law itself right now. It's called HB 2, and I'm relatively certain that we can put a link to it somewhere on the page. And line 32 and line 46 are what I'm looking at right now, and it's probably what most people are objecting to. Line 26 as well. Is this general emphasis on biological gender that they've inserted into this law, and I do not disagree with the article that you pointed us to, Al, that this law does not make any reservations whatsoever for those people who are transgender who have made a full transition. The fact that this law is emphasizing biological gender and making no statements as to someone who has decided to become another gender is probably what's being objected to. I got no problem with a man who fully transitions to being a woman. I have no problem with that woman going into a woman's bathroom. I have a problem with a man who's got a penis, wearing a dress, walking into a woman's restroom. I've got a problem with that. That is a violation of privacy. I'm relatively certain every woman in the world, most women in the world would agree with me. And that is what this law is trying to prevent. It's trying to prevent pervs from doing what pervs do. I can respect that. What I can't respect is that the law, as it is written, does not make reservations for those people who have fully transitioned.
Well, here's the problem, because while you are very supportive of one subset of the transgender community, it shows a lack of maybe empathy, or maybe just not consideration to the fact that some people can't afford the operation yet, but they're still female. They're mentally female. They're gender identified as female. They just haven't had the transition yet. Or maybe they don't want to do the transition. Maybe that's not part of their gender identity. Maybe they are, I forget the official term, but it's somebody who views themselves as both male and female. But they have a dominant personality set towards one way, gender identity. So they're more gender identity female, but they have male parts, and they still see themselves somewhat as male as well. You're forgetting about those people that would maybe in a dress go into the bathroom to use the bathroom. Women's bathrooms don't have urinals. they have sectioned off toilets. As far as I know, I've honestly never been in a female's bathroom
More
before.
than a few of them. I know what you're talking about.
Well, I don't see why they would have urinals.
Yeah.
Say that.
Well, most don't.
I think I can't think any. I can't see why one would in any circumstance. But go ahead.
Well, when I visited it, so hold on, I haven't finished the thought yet. So they've got this even in the female set or even in the male set that's urinals. Some of those women wouldn't. That some of those men that haven't transitioned wouldn't have the male equipment, so to speak, to even use a urinal. So, I mean, there's that issue right there that's not really being fully addressed at all, let alone. Go ahead.
Well, to begin with, I have nothing but empathy for people who feel a certain way and who are built not that way. I have empathy for people who have desires and want to see them fulfilled. What I don't have empathy for is the simple fact that they are what they are. Now, if they want to transition, then they need to transition. In the meantime, a man with a penis putting on a dress does not a woman make. You can act the part all you want, but unfortunately, bad people who want to do bad things and who want to exploit women are going to do the same thing. And until we have some form of telepathy that we can install in a doorway that can determine whether or not you are being honest or you are not being honest, I'm sorry, but the law has to be a blanket statement. It can't be a specific statement. Otherwise, it's targeting, and targeting will be objected to anyway. So, until the general public can tell the difference, I hate to use the word because I'm told that it's offensive these days, but a transvestite is not an acceptable reason for a man to go into a woman's restroom. I know plenty of perverts that'll dress in women's underwear and dresses just to go into a bathroom and use their phone to take a picture of a woman in the next stall.
Can I cut in here?
No.
I think that there is an answer to the dilemma that you're laying out. Okay, and that is this: if anything, because that's what you just described as criminal, absolutely criminal. So in those cases, if that's found to be happening, every square inch of the law should be thrown at that person to set an example and to really discourage any inappropriate behavior within restrooms. Because let's face it, there are certainly going to be situations, regardless of laws, where if somebody really wanted to put their mind to it, they can dress up so convincingly and say this person is the type of person you're describing as a threat. It's still an imaginary line that can be crossed. So I don't think that argument really stands to scrutiny, because it's still easy to fool other women, I would imagine. And two, we got to throw the book at those perverts that are doing stuff like that, regardless of what the other laws say.
As long as people value their privacy in the bathroom, the only solution to this problem is to eliminate public bathrooms. And I'm not talking about eliminating bathrooms in public places. Single occupancy public bathrooms are what I'm talking about. A single room, small, with a toilet and a sink. And maybe
I can get behind that. If somebody's really that uncomfortable, what if there is mandated in that there has to be at least one single occupancy bathroom in public spaces with certain considerations for ages of buildings and things along those lines.
Even in older buildings, there's nothing stopping someone from ripping out an entire bathroom, putting in a couple of subdivisions inside, and making that public bathroom into 2 or more single occupancy cubicles.
Yeah, and these are great ideas. And what the thing is, and I think we really kind of glossed over the point I was trying to make at the onset of the podcast, is what this law attempts to do, or maybe even has done, is take the ability for people to adapt to, or local municipalities and counties and so on, to make up their own common sense ways of dealing with this stuff. And I did want to kind of get your guys' take about that aspect and the hypocrisy of that that stance that they're taking, that the state is the one that gets to decide everything over all the smaller forms of government beneath it, when those same Republicans, more than likely, are the ones that are screaming at the top of their lungs, states' rights, get federal government out of our state. I mean, I do want to get your guys' thoughts in that regard.
Well, but before we get into that, we need to continue to address this.
Hold on, I brought up my point first. I just want to say,
Joel, I'm on top of it, man. I want to talk about that as well, but let's let Al have his speak as well.
Okay, all right, fair enough.
Here's the
let the racist have his way. Oh, I'm so sorry. I actually feel bad about that one.
You should.
I do. Yeah. Al's not a racist, except when he's a racist. So in this case, he wasn't a racist.
Fuck this guy. So there's two issues that are stemming from this. One is the fact that year before last, North Carolina passed a bill that prevents you from changing your birth certificate. And if there are any alterations to your birth certificate with the gender, they have to be annotated on the new birth certificate, even if it's from another state. So if you had one birth certificate that says you're man, and you've transgendered, and now you've got one that says you're female, it has to put your first gender first. So that blocks you from any and all opportunities of being acknowledged fully in your birth certificate or birth rights or gender identity. So with it being first initialized that you were born man, you can't then ever use a female's restroom with this bill passing. And two, it's not just bathrooms, it's locker rooms, it's changing facilities, and if you remember correctly, earlier this year, well, not this year, 2015, earlier within the last 12 months, North Carolina had a lawsuit from a student who was transgendering to female. He was male at first, biologically, but female gender identity, and sued and won to get to use the girls' locker room during her transition to female with her parents' support and all that. So this would block her from even using the girls' changing rooms at school because of this bill. So do you really want our children to be told, I'm sorry, but we don't recognize what you are the way you think you are because your birth certificate?
Damn straight. As long as there is one girl at that school who does not want to see a penis in her changing room, she has a right to not have to see a penis in a room designed for women.
So you're kosher with blocking somebody because of their biologics from using what they can view as their body.
As long as there is one person who objects in that particular room, in that particular school, in that city, in that county, in that place, wherever there may be someone who can object. Look, LGBTs have a right to do what they feel is best for themselves, but everyone else has a right to do what is best for themselves as well. Here's where things get confusing and get very fuzzy very quickly. When you start talking about changing birth certificates, you're talking about trying to change history. You're talking about trying to change real facts, and I'm not kosher with that. I'm okay with somebody.
So here's the concern. That identical argument was used in the 50s to prevent black, quote-unquote, black Americans from using white facilities, white locker rooms, white this, white that, white bathrooms, white fountains. That's the same argument. It's just now it's biology, it's biological gender as opposed to skin color.
Not
It
a
didn't
single
work
one
then.
of those black people that I'm aware of chose to be black.
And not a single one of
Whoa.
the transgender people chose to be the biological gender that they were born into and not the actual gender they see themselves in.
That's right. Absolutely
So-
right.
Well, then you just supported my argument. You just argued against yourself.
Al, I think it bears mentioning at this point that this is not a simple concept to unpack.
Nope.
I mean, this is very complex. There's a lot of emotion wrapped up in this. It's easy to, from a satellite view, maybe mark out your territory, but in a practical sense, I think we should be a little more charitable to other people's views and try and figure out, creative solutions to take them seriously. Because I do agree with John in that LGBTQ people certainly have their rights to feel or to be in a comfortable situation in those types of scenarios, but so does everybody else. There's equal rights, right? So I don't know if it's as easy as it seems, as though you're making it out to be. It makes me kind of wonder if we head down the road of something like, what was that crazy sci-fi movie where they went and killed all the crazy bugs and stuff, and they had like locker rooms where there was no gender at all. It just
That would have been Starship Troopers, and I'm okay with
Starship Troopers. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what I first kind of thought of.
Understand something. I don't particularly care. My personal stance, I've lived with women before. I'm living with a woman now. I've lived with women I wasn't married with. I've shared a bedroom. I've shared locker rooms. I've shared bathrooms with women my entire military career. What I am objecting to is that other people have not lived that way. Other people do have sensitivities, and conservatives who want to see things, want to have their little private spaces, they're entitled to have their little private spaces.
But how do you react to Al's comparing it to what we went through with civil rights with African Americans? I mean, it is an apt comparison.
No, it's really not.
Why is it not?
I see this is a completely different situation. Civil rights is a blanket term used to describe the rights of the general populace, the rights of the individual within the general populace. Comparing civil rights back in the 50s and 60s with the blacks versus the whites to transgenders today, completely different topic, completely different scenario. Simply because it is a choice.
Whoa!
I don't agree with that. I don't think it's a choice.
I think with a few,
it's not a choice. It doesn't matter. In my opinion, that's not that's not relevant. But the point is it's about a person's right to feel comfortable. Now, I don't know how to gauge these things as far as you got a situation like we're describing and more people are uncomfortable with this person in there, but that really is the same thing that was happening with in the 60s, well, all the prior to the 60s, and later to some extent. So
just call it the Jim Crow era.
The Jim Crow era, yeah, and all of human history before that to some extent.
Whatever. So
we are evolving. It's very, very hard to figure this stuff out. It's not, as Al seems to be portraying, a clear, cut and dry moral stance. Maybe only in retrospect do we see it as such with Jim Crow. and maybe in 20 years we're going to look back on this conversation we're having and be like, what the fuck were we talking about? This is so obvious, but we're not there right now. We can't judge ourselves from the future.
So in 20 years, when we look back on this, I want you guys to remember I was fucking right, and this is a simple issue.
I don't even know if we're going to make it 20 years. Individually, society, I don't know. It just doesn't seem very likely.
Look, Jim Crow was wrong, okay? Judging someone based on a generality is wrong, and certainly discriminating against someone based on a generality is wrong. But when it comes to, okay, with Jim Crow, it was not possible for someone to decide to be black one day and claim that it was, that he was always black, and then decide the next day to be white. It's just not. It's not practical.
Michael Jackson.
However, no. Stop laughing. It's not even funny. Michael Jackson is a very poor example. He was still a black man. He chose to change his skin color, but he tried to change his nose. But the point of the fact is, he was still a black man. He still looked like a black man. You could tell that he was a black man. Anyone who saw him when he was a child knew that he was a black man. Yes, it is possible to change your phenotype. But he's still that person. His genetic material is still black. He's still the child of two black people. So, with that said, it's a completely different argument when you're talking about the LGBTs, because all it takes to claim to be a woman is for a man to put on a dress, and then he can claim to be a woman. No real surgery involved.
No, that's actually not true, because there are plenty of LGBT, transitioning people that choose to live up until the day of surgery in the quote-unquote gender-accepted norm, the gender binary. So dress, act as a man until the day of the surgery. Some states, well, not states, but some locations, some hospitals allow you to do that. Most recommend that you live your life a year in advance in that gender to see if it matches up with your aligned gender identity. Not all require that. So there are some that do live their lives as men that are female. And when they go home, they take off the suit, and they view themselves completely differently. They present themselves, not view, present themselves. But that doesn't mean that you get to say, just because you throw on a dress, you're a female, or you can claim to be a female. That's not true. There's people like Eddie Izzard, who, male, heterosexual, views himself as a man, just likes wearing dresses. That's not deviant. That's just something he digs doing. He's a cross-dresser. He's not transsexual.
I would still call that deviant, but
here, let me just say this: if we really want to go back into history a little bit here, the arguments were not simply black and white don't mix. There were arguments that stated that black people were inferior in many different kinds of ways, in intellect, in morality, in all sorts of different kinds, that were clearly wrong. And
that's
so
what nobody is saying about the LGBTs.
Nobody's saying that. I hold on.
Which pastor would you like me to pull up to prove that?
Well, hold on. I don't want to. I want to be charitable to his argument here. So no. Tell you what. Can you please explain that?
Show me one pastor who has said that a member of the LGBT community is subhuman because of their choice or because of the way that they feel that they are.
It's coming, John. I could just tell you right now, because the family values get together that was just not too long ago, where presidential candidates went to speak. There was a pastor that was advocating the death, the systematic murder of every LGBTQ person in the country.
Well, then that guy is a moron, and
he's a fucking moron, and just like the people that supported Jim Crow.
and belongs to be put in the same category as ISIS. That man is a zealot. He is advocating the violation of civil rights.
I completely agree. I mean, but you asked us to name one, and we've just done it. So where do we go from there?
So the Human and Faith Development Group, which is a combination of 5 pastors of the Quaker tradition, make that same claim. The Josh Duggar's pastor has made that claim. Let me look. This one says Ted Cruz, endorsed by pastor, who says gays will gang rape our children. Hold on. Let me get this guy's name.
I really do think this is really prevalent in the evangelical community.
Charles Worley.
And certainly in
North Carolina
Islamism.
Baptist pastor Charles Worley.
Granted, there is a large community of zealots in the United States.
Transgender people are subhuman. Period.
And it's just like was, and still is a large community of racists that, and we have to protect the people they are trying to dehumanize in the same kind of way.
I'd just like to point out that those people are not the ones writing this law, and if they are, there's a problem.
How do we know that? I mean, I don't know how we could know that without really looking into it.
There's no verbiage in this law that says LGBT folk are subhuman.
They're treated differently. We're asking to treat them differently.
No, we're not.
Yes, we are.
We're asking to treat...
In the North Carolina law, they're saying that transgender people, because their biological gender is different from their gender identity, should be treated differently and forced to go with the biological gender that other people of that same gender are required to use, even though they're not biologically that gender.
How is that treating them differently? Because the law is very specific about biological gender.
Right, but there's 2 different types of biologic you're dealing with. You're dealing with physiology biologically, and then you're dealing with mental health biology, which is completely different. The chemistry of the brain says to a transgender female, you're female. She happens to be born with the physiology of a male. So
yeah, this law is not talking about mental health or any kind of mental biology, as you put it.
So it's treating the transgender people as different from the quote-unquote gender binary.
No.
Yes, it is.
What this law is basically saying is if you have a penis, you need to be using the men's restroom. I don't care what your mental state is.
Well, maybe we should call it the penis restroom and the vagina restroom then.
Hey, I'm okay with that.
Go in here if you have uh-oh. Did we lose somebody?
No, I'm still here. You just lost my video feed.
Oh, okay.
Off my computer. Fucking piece of shit.
Okay. So, look, I'm not saying it's a one-for-one equivalence, but it is apt. It is comparable. It's not clearly different to such an extent that you can't even discuss the 2 things together. I don't think, again, it's somewhere on a continuum, right? Or are they literally, John, are they, in your opinion, cut and dry different, not at all comparable?
What are the 2 things that we're comparing?
The 2 things that we're comparing are Jim Crow era belief systems and anti-LGBTQ belief systems.
A viable comparison to Jim Crow might be, I don't know, the drinking fountain thing. Okay, there were white drinking fountains and there were black drinking fountains. Carry a bottle of water, carry a canteen, and then you don't have to worry about it. The problem that's going on here is not that in the LGBT argument. The problem is not somebody saying you can't become a woman. Nobody's saying that. Nobody's saying that you can't use a woman's restroom after you're a woman. What they're saying is, I don't want you looking at my coochie if you're a man, and you're not my husband.
Well, that's assuming that everybody that's going into those restrooms that's transitioning one way or the other has a primary objective of doing that. And my point is no law is going to stop somebody whose primary objective is to do that. The penalties will be severe for someone that's doing that. And yet we're alienating all these people who generally just want to go take a shit in a place that they feel relatively comfortable.
Well, then, you know what? Individual bathrooms. You know, the stall thing that I've heard about in New York City, that would probably be not a bad solution to the problem.
You heard it here first, folks. We need to create jobs in America. Let's build more shitters.
Damn
Well,
straight.
Portland's already doing that. They're building those fucking individual shitters.
They're all over the hospital I work at. All
I'm
over.
okay with individual shitters. That solved the problem right there.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's an aspect to this that I can certainly empathize with, and that is that, you know, we're attaching a lot to this. We got a lot of writers on this debate of, you know, all the morality of just flat out people who are LGBTQ wanting to make other people see them a certain way. I'm not saying that happens across the board, but it's certainly an issue where you get into the regressive mindset. Then, of course, the flip side of that coin is the people that you want to basically eradicate such people from society, be it literally or by just marginalizing them with laws and rules to the point where it makes their lives incredibly more difficult than they should be, and incredibly discriminatory. It absolutely is. So, you know, again, we've got two sides, and I know I'm using this term a lot, but it just seems we've got two sides that are just completely being uncharitable to the other's argument and dismissing what it is they're trying to say. And I think that's the problem with all of this identity politic kind of stuff, is that we're choosing in a lot of these conversations to not acknowledge the merit on any level of other people's feelings or thoughts. And that's where we're going wrong in so many areas in today's extremely volatile landscape of discourse.
I'm not discounting what they're saying, and I'm certainly not discounting some of the legitimate concerns.
I'm not saying you are, Al. I'm saying that this is what's happening.
Well, I realize
general.
that. I'm just making it sure that it's clear that I'm not dismissing some of the concerns John is bringing up. I'm not dismissing his viewpoint. I'm just saying that he's fucking wrong.
That's a distinction without a difference, my friend.
I will absolutely agree with the Bleeding Hearts that this law is written very poorly and with very little. You know, there are some points in here that are very specifically designed to be empathic. However, there are a couple of very specific points in here that are not very empathic, and it's clear to me that many people wrote this law, and yeah, that's a problem with our legal system that we could be tackling in another.
So we're going to start a hashtag here. BHs for BMs. Is anybody there?
Christ, Joel.
Bleeding hearts for bowel movements. Anyway,
I'm crickets in that one.
That deserves it.
Deserves crickets.
I think it's a great. Oh no, I'm lying. It's nothing. You know, one thing I learned today is that if you find yourself in a hole and you don't want to be in it, stop digging.
There you go.
Crickets again.
As we've learned from episode number 12.
Right.
Joel loses.
So, we've spent 40-some minutes on this topic. Do we want to continue going on it, or do we want to move on to another topic that obviously
Put America to work,
probably
build shitters. That's
I tell you what, let's use this as a transition. You know, one of the other
nice pun.
These are the mild forms of crime that could be occurring because of people using, because of non-gender bathrooms. There are some more serious issues involved that some women who have been raped, if they see a man in the women's restroom, you're talking about trauma. You're talking about real mental trauma going on there. And on the topic of rape, I hear that there's this...
As his voice gently cracks.
How lightly do I want to tread?
It's really difficult to try and transition.
Yeah, now you know how they feel. Transitioning is hard.
God,
A little bit, But,
Shit.
on the topic of rape, what kind of paint manufacturer names a shade rape yellow?
Al,
Okay, so
can you fill us in?
Now that we dig into this, oh god. So this started over in the UK. This argument came up, and there's actually an industrial standard that says rape seed yellow will be labeled rape yellow. Granted, while they've gone online, they changed it online right when they heard about the complaint. They can't quickly change the tins.
Al, I don't mean to. Well, I guess I do. I want to just really emphasize what we're talking about. We're talking about paint that you would put, on a wall or anything. We're talking about just literally just paint. So
Yes,
I don't know if that was completely clear.
It's a semi-gloss paint used for everything from housing to, arts and crafts, and it is made from it's made from what's called rapeseed. Rapeseed is a seed that gives a yellow color when it is mixed with as a dye.
Even if it's not made from it, it's made to emulate.
Yes, and it is called rapeseed yellow. But the industrial standard for the tins, when it came out, the industrial standard came out, they shortened it to rape because it was cheaper to put on a tin of paint than to do rape seed all the way around it. So, anyway.
And according to this Daily Mail article that I just found, I don't know how reliable it is, that industrial standard was established in the 1800s.
That's what I said, is it 1800. Granted, should it be updated? Maybe.
Yes.
But it's been an industrial standard for 200 years. Everybody that's in the industry knows that rape yellow means rapeseed yellow. What it impacted was a woman going through a store. Supposedly, I can't verify this because they didn't release any records with it. She claims she was a sexual assault victim, and I'm not going to say that she wasn't because I don't know. And she said she left all hurt, upset, frustrated, and angry. And if she was an assault victim, that may be a trigger for her. So she complained about it. And the paint company said, okay, we can see this impacted you. We can't change the tins that are on the shelf, but we're changing it in the future. So they haven't even challenged any issue. They went, okay, that's a valid complaint. We're changing our labels to say rapeseed. It had already been changed online to say rapeseed. So the big brouhaha is she's blowing this out of proportion by going to all these news outlets and taking pictures and social media and going, I can't believe they're doing this. They're not doing anything. When in fact they had already responded to her and said, you're right, we'll change it. So the issue is she's making it bigger than what it is, and in fact, at this point, lying by saying they hadn't responded. They had responded. They told her they're going to change it, and the store had already taken the paint off the shelf when they found out about the complaint 2 weeks after the woman complained. Did she tell anybody in the store? No.
Two things here. If the word rape is triggering problems with her, she needs to see a therapist. If the color yellow is triggering issues for her, she needs to see a therapist. The point of this is not to change the labeling. The point of this is for her to get attention. That's what I'm getting out of this.
Yeah, I can
There's
see that.
there is that, but and I agree, she does need therapy because if she is being triggered that bad, she needs to see somebody and get some help dealing with her past trauma. And she did blow this out of proportion because if she had told...
Let's just qualify really quickly that, of course, someone that is a rape victim, again, like you say, needs therapy, and we don't want to, by any stretch of the imagination, minimize or marginalize what they've gone through, assuming that again, all the facts as we see them are accurate. So just to be clear, of course, we empathize with anybody that's had to go through something like that. So continue.
Absolutely agree.
Yeah, that's 100% on all three of our parts. The concern is, while I understand that she got triggered and she ran out of the store, she didn't contact the store first. She waited 2 weeks before it ever got back to the store because she blasted it on social media, and the paint company actually heard about it before the store did. The paint company sent her contacts and all that and said, hey, well, we're changing this. We see your concern. It's an industrial standard, but we see your concern. We'll change it. And then they contacted the store and had the store pull the stuff off the shelf. Why does she need to continue after that fact going, they're not doing anything? No, that's not true. They are.
Yeah, it's another case where a party is not being remotely reasonable or charitable to the other side, and that's where we are. We're a society of extremists, and I don't want to go too far down this road, but it really is disheartening that people are choosing to put themselves out there as some kind of martyr at any slight provocation, which this, in my opinion, counts as that. And we just please, people, just apply some reason to this stuff. What do people want? Do people want to just change everything overnight, or do we want to work together to progressively build a better society, which is the only way we're going to be able to get the outliers to follow along? If we're talking about making huge sweeping changes, all you're going to create is more division and more animosity. So if your goal is to actually help society, you need to temper what your behavior with reason and rationality.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What I see going on here is that this is a woman who had something really, really bad happen to her, and now, where do you draw the line? Where does victimhood? Okay, you're a victim of something really bad. Is it okay to take that victimhood and use it as an excuse to try and gain fame?
No.
Because that's what I see this woman doing right now.
If that is truly the primary purpose of this, then that's absolutely wrong.
Again, that's what I see based on what I'm finding online, but based on what I'm finding in the article.
In this particular instance, I would say no, it's not the appropriate thing to do. If it is used in another way, then yes, it can be a positive thing.
Well, and we talked about her, going to get counseling, but she's going to have to walk through a door that has the words "the rapist" on there.
That's true. And maybe she'll complain about that. And
I'm so sorry. I wasn't sure if I should go there. I think that's going to get some crickets too.
Might be worthy of crickets. Here, the same thing is going on what campus was that? Some campus where somebody was writing chalk, Trump stuff in chalk, and then people are claiming that they're victimized by it. Anybody know anything about that?
Say it
It's
again.
not ringing any bells.
It's been all over the news.
Honestly, I was PMing somebody. I didn't hear it.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
So some university, let's see, Trump chalk. Students terrified by Trump 2016 chalk. This is on Fox News Opinion. Figures it would be Fox News.
Faux news.
Yeah. So Emory University in Atlanta is apparently where this is going on. And
Emily.
big surprise there. But basically, it's the same situation. Somebody is seeing something that they disagree with, and then they're making a big deal out of it. Not because there's no real indication that these people are doing something about it because they really feel victimized by it. It really looks like these people are doing something about these things because they want 15 minutes of fame.
It does. In many cases, it does. It definitely appears that way.
The biggest problem that I have with that sort of thing is people who are okay. If you've got a sensitivity that you don't know about until somebody tells you to have that sensibility, then it's not a valid complaint. If somebody walked up to me and said, "Dude, you're such a white man. Why don't you just go kill yourself?" I'm not going to be offended by that. That dude's just being an idiot. What does that have to do with anything? That's somebody spewing garbage for the sake of spewing garbage. So somebody drawing, a chalk picture saying Trump 2016 in chalk, mind you, not even in spray paint, but in chalk on a concrete floor, how is that victimizing you? And where do you come off making a big deal out of it?
Well, you nailed it. I mean, it's clearly a way of gaining really, really shitty attention.
Now let's say
that one's so much further cut and dry. Now can I just add this too? When we have a situation, getting back to the rape yellow, let's just for conversational purposes say that this really isn't a genuine trigger or emotion that she's had, or at least that it was completely disproportionate. When this stuff happens, and I don't expect any disagreements on this, when people are trivializing these issues in this way, what it does is it effectively marginalizes the people that really are actually having struggles and do have PTSD and are triggered by things and are trying with all of their strength to build a better life for themselves where they can be stronger. It just says it either like you say, tells them that they actually have a problem that they can't fix, that it's up to society to fix it for them, or it just completely just makes their voice mute.
Absolutely. It's like giving a Purple Heart to a guy who got a splinter during a bombing attack. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that actually happened. And
shrapnel is shrapnel, my friend.
No. This guy slid his hand across a wooden desk and got a splinter during an attack, mind you. But he was getting under his desk, and he got a
goddamn
splinter.
army desks.
Really?
Air Force.
Air fucking Force. Cheap. Oh, sorry. Spend the money, government. Let's stop dumping, $100 billion into jets that don't work and start getting these guys some real fucking desks from IKEA.
So, before we get...
Did I just totally just shit on your statement?
I have
there,
a lot of
sorry.
fucking editing to do now.
I'm so sorry. Oh, I'm in rare form. Well, not really rare, I guess.
You are in good form today, top shape.
Shut the fuck up,
right on there, Goose. So...
Nothing for the Khalid?
I called
Yeah,
you Goose. What do you want from me?
I don't know. It's just a hug.
So, all right, here's
Same.
my imaginary hug.
I'm just saying, you two calling each other Khalid and Mohammed is just as racist as anything else. So
It's not racist. It's bigoted. It's bigoted, baby.
okay, bigoted. Fine. Yeah.
How do
Joel's a
you
bigot.
know? How do you know my middle name is not Khalid?
Because I've known you for a while.
Yeah, fair enough. That's kind of cop right there, but you know, the audience doesn't know.
Because we've seen your birth certificates with 2 different genders on it.
And
God damn it! No
names and
more
2 different Social
crickets.
Security numbers. So the thing that's being bypassed in this, and I think we didn't really address it as fully as maybe we should have, is the fact that the company, regardless of whether or not she is looking for fame or actually had PTSD or, any of that, they listened to a complaint and said, you know what, this could be affecting other people that we hadn't even thought about, and they acted on it right away, took care of it. So even though society isn't supposed to be policing the world for you to feel safe, this company actually did take into account concerns and addressed it right away. So I think they should get some props here.
I do too.
I agree with you, they deserve props, but I'm not sure I'm comfortable with the precedent that's being set. This is one person making one complaint, and yeah, it's a valid complaint. Yeah, that, the company, somebody at the company should have probably looked at that 100 years ago and said, you know what, we should probably make that rapeseed. But, the fact is they didn't, and, yeah, that needs to be changed. But the precedent that's being set is very uncomfortable to me. When one person can make a stink out of something and violate the rights of 1,000 people, that's a problem to me.
Well, they're not violating anybody's rights. Somebody went to a company.
Are you kidding? That woman is slandering the company. She's lying about the company, saying that they didn't do anything.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, that's a civil issue that could be addressed later. They may not want to sue her right now because the PR that's currently going and that she's blowing up. But, Aldi, the company, actually did take into account a concern and addressed it right away. Granted, should they have done it when they were first founded and maybe thought about it? Who knows? They didn't. They went with an industrial standard, but they took it upon themselves as a company to go, look, my customer base has a concern. I'm addressing that concern. It's a relatively cheap transition. And they stepped up to the bat. And the precedent.
The company.
Yeah, and the precedent. Yeah, sorry.
And it sounds like they did it in a very expedient manner. I mean.
Oh, yeah.
It really illuminates the motives from the person making the complaint. It really does. It just allows me to completely dismiss her argument, because what can a company do but react to the concerns that were placed in a timely, efficient way? What are they liable for the 120 years or whatever it was prior to that? And if that's what you're saying, if that's the precedent that this person is trying to make, does this company have to somehow give reparations to the people who may have felt some kind of discomfort at reading this or over that amount of time? I mean, it's just a ridiculous thing to even consider.
What's eating me up about a lot of these situations is people trying to use their sensibilities as an excuse to act up. And I'm seeing it a lot in schools these days as well, kids using their hormones as an excuse to act up. And and it's being allowed. And as long as that kind of behavior keeps going on, I mean, as long as we continue to reward people who are acting out simply because they want to, I think it's creating a real precedent in society. And when it comes to situations like this is a fairly mild case. You know, let's talk about let's talk about the Black Lives Matter movement. Let's talk about some of these other situations where people who aren't otherwise victimized are deciding that they are victimized because it looks like fun or because it looks like a good way to get some attention. And again, it's nothing you can prove. I mean, I can't look at someone in the BLM movement and say, no, that never happened to you. I can't do that. I can't tell someone, no, you don't feel this way. And I'm not going to try to. All I'm saying is there are those people out there. I know they're out there.
Yeah.
I can't point to them, but I know they're out there. They weren't thinking about this stuff before they saw it on TV. That's the problem that I'm talking about.
I don't.
It's copycat crime.
I don't know. I certainly think that there are people in the BLM movement that are as you describe, but I also know so many people that deal with the institutional racism every single day.
Oh, absolutely. I know it's out there too. I mean, all you got to do is look at South Chicago or Detroit. I mean, yeah, that's.
You can look right here in Portland where I am, and not have to look too far. So it really is everywhere.
Hold on, Joel. You got to be careful there because Portland.
Maybe. Yeah.
Well, no. The reason why you got to be careful is because Portland, Vancouver, are considered one of the primary hubs of the white supremacist movement.
Yeah.
So to use our area as a I just got to step outside. That's not really equivalent to the rest of the country.
But the greater point I think that I was making is that you can do that in any city in the country and even beyond. I chose my city because this is where I live. So if I was living in Charleston, I would say the same thing. So
it's really I do not support white supremacy under any circumstances, but again, I'm
not a racist, but
I gotta agree with Al on this one. Portland is a poor example. The reason I bring up Southside Chicago and Detroit is because here you've got large communities of black people who have congregated in those communities for socioeconomic reasons, and because the people who own those properties are arguably white. I mean, I know that there are quite a few black people that own those properties as well, and they're being assholes as well. But a lot of these small and large communities of racially homogenous groups, the reason they feel victimized is because they see one thing, and it really doesn't matter what the reality is. Perception is 9/10 of the law. If you see a white man owning 90% of your property or 90% of your community, and your living conditions suck because of the property owner, because of rules, regulations, because that guy refuses to repair your faucet, whatever the reason is, if you perceive that, it's probably true.
Well, let me ask a question. This is strictly an intellectual pursuit here, but what if we consider the fact that there might be, to some extent, some false correlation happening?
Well, hang on, because I wasn't quite finished.
Okay.
In those communities, that situation is probably real. Perception is 9/10 of reality. They're probably right. There's probably a white man out there putting his thumb on them. But a kid in Orange County, Orange County is a pretty good example of a mixed race community. Orange County, California, of course, not Florida. A black kid in Orange County, California, really, does not know that there are differences going on there, okay? That kid in Orange County has no right to join the BLM movement. I'm sorry. It's not the same thing. Southside Chicago, they've got an argument to be made. A kid living in a middle-class home in Orange County probably doesn't have the same right. Maybe.
Well, can I just
go ahead.
Just comment to that? And the one thing I would say to that is we're all going to identify. Like, I feel solidarity with poor people, despite the fact that I'm not poor. I can certainly unite with my poor brothers and sisters in fighting for their rights. So, I mean, or any other segment of our community. I mean, I can use my empathetic abilities to. But yeah, I would never go so far as to say that I'm the victim. I think society, in that case that I'm kind of describing now, is there's victimization, and that's what I don't like, is the victimization, not because I'm a victim, but because I'm a human.
Precisely my point. I'm not talking about empathy. Yeah, that kid in Orange County can empathize with his fellows in Southside Chicago, but he cannot stand up and claim, I'm a victim.
Yeah, no, I think that's probably true.
Well, that's one of the reasons I have issues with the concept of reparations.
Yeah.
You know,
it's victimhood by proxy. I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. I leave a lot of room to learn about this.
I'll unpack that a little bit. What are you talking about reparations? Are you talking about the people in Southside Chicago asking for reparations from the property owner, or are you talking about the entire black race asking for reparations? What are you talking about?
I'm talking about the entire black community arguing that because some black ancestors were slaves, that they deserve to be paid for the suffrages of some of those people. Now,
suffrages? I don't know if that was the right word.
I don't think that's the right word.
It might be the wrong. It's probably the wrong word.
Suffering.
I'm not an English major. I'm just a dick on a radio.
You're a major pain in the ass.
So,
my granddaddy used to say, if you're going to be a dick, be a big one.
Yeah, exactly. Go big or go home. So, my wife actually told me to get a penis enlarger, so I did. Her name's Brandy. She's 21. It's wonderful.
Really didn't intend to derail the conversation with that. Go ahead.
So, my issue is
telling y'all it's sabotage.
I get this point of view from. Fuck you, Joel.
He's just powering through, and then he just broke.
So I get this viewpoint from somebody who is more entrenched in a certain community that probably deserved reparations for their viewpoints, the Native American community. And him being Native American, family lineage from 2 tribes, doesn't view his rights to reparations because he wasn't part of that movement. He wasn't involved in it. Granted, his ancestors were, but he doesn't believe that he deserves any treatment other because he was born well after the issue. And I know of at least 2 people that moved here from Trinidad. Their ancestors weren't slaves. They were never born into slavery. They were never transported to the U.S. for slavery. Both are, I guess black is the best way to put it. I'm really not sure if you were to classify them. And they believe they should get reparations for slavery in America because they happen to be black. That would be like me saying, well, I'm of Irish descendancy, biologically. I should get reparations for all the Irish slaves that happen to exist. No, that's not how shit fucking works. I wasn't born then. I'm not owed shit. And none of the people born today, unless they lived through the civil rights movement, happen to be enslaved and enslaved and oppressed in some way, they don't deserve shit.
This day, Al, will go down in history because this is the day you and I are agreeing on something.
Shit.
Why don't we use that as a very tidy and wonderful bow to put on this thing?
Okay.
John and Al agree.
That's a terrifying thought.
So by extension, John's a racist.
Oh, damn. Damn, did I just inherit that? How did I get
that? Well, it's reparations, my friend.
No, seriously, qualify that, because how does me agreeing with Al about reparations and the lack of claim there too?
No. You're putting far more thought into this than I did.
Anything to do with being a racist. So that's
nothing.
You.
None of my accusations against Al are true, but that doesn't stop me.
See, this is rapeseed oil coming at me. See, you're talking about calling me a racist because I'm agreeing with Al that people don't deserve shit for what happened to their ancestors. You know what? No, I'm not going to accept that. I am not a racist.
I reject your reality and I replace it with my own.
No. Reject your opinion and I reject my own. Reality doesn't seem to be a factor in this at the moment.
Why would it? So, quantum physics, reality. Okay.
Seriously, Al,
let's transition to an ending here.
Seriously, Al, I'm gonna agree with you on that one. I think that people need to be angry with what's going on and not with what happened in the past. You know, if what happened in the past is still affecting the present, then that needs to change. But reparations just doesn't work, man. I can't go to, ancient Greece and say, hey, I want reparations for the Peloponnesian War. No, it's not going to happen. I can't go back to ancient Rome and say, hey, you guys victimized my people in England in 200 AD. I want reparations. It doesn't work. It's not going to happen.
And at one point in evolution, is the cutoff for reparations. I mean, we're all evolved from the same singular form. So
you know what? I want reparations from the dinosaurs for keeping my mammal brothers and sisters down for so many millions of years. Fuck them reptiles, man.
Well, I want reparations from my wife's family because apparently her Norse ancestors, her Viking ancestors, raided my adoptive dad's family's lands and killed some of them. So
damn sorry.
I want reparations from everybody in Great Britain because apparently gingers can't get laid in Great Britain.
Wait, what?
Gingers can't get laid in Great Britain.
Are you making a statement of fact as you know it?
It's a study I saw.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is this by the Family Research Council too?
Yeah. Sounds.
I can't donate sperm.
I can't donate my rapeseed.
Oh my God! Wow.
No, I'm sorry.
That's going into outtakes.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's not going. Yeah.
Oh God. Oh, I'm screwed. I'm not getting a job again.
You want me to put episode 12 in private because it is so fucking bad, and yet you throw that piece of gold at me in 30 minutes and expect me not to save that shit?
Please protect my voice.
Wow.
Change my voice to protect the innocent. Or the guilty, I guess. In this case.
Jesus Christ.
I just want to apologize to humanity.
So let me.
I did not have verbal relations with that comment.
I did not have sexual relations with that woman.
I'm sorry, that deserves crickets too.
Okay, yeah.
Fuck.